समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Three things have come together to raise a combination of issues related to caste and minorities that India has failed to resolve even 75 years after its constitution was born. The caste issue, of course, has persisted through centuries. The three things: one, the shoe throwing at the Dalit Chief Justice of India in his court. Number two, a senior Dalit IPS officer in Haryana shooting himself and leaving a suicide note on years of discrimination, victimization, and bottled up fury. And the third, the somewhat counterintuitive success among the well-heeled of Homebound, the film by Neeraj Ghaywan, the most prominent and powerful Dalit filmmaker in Bollywood. This is no hit to rival Sayara, Pathan, Jawan, Animal, Bahubali, or multiple Bahubalis, I think, or Kantara. It also did not have any of the usual built-up big PR interviews, sponsored, which means paid reviews across many publications, social media influencers, and definitely no big stars. If Vidya Balan's Reshma in The Dirty Picture told us the three-word mantra that makes a movie successful, entertainment, 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 Homebound fails it completely. It makes no pretense of offering any entertainment. It wasn't designed for a 100 crore rupee opening. Yet, after a very slow start, it picked up through sheer word of mouth, especially among the upper crust professionals and younger entrepreneurs, say those with 8-figure annual incomes or in high sevens, the socio-economic influencer class. Evidence comes from the most expensive, if small, halls in multiplexes running to full capacity in the metros. The social buzz that I pick up in these circles isn't that the film was a bore, exaggerated, overly political, or the usual line we keep hearing. It's obvious that reservations haven't resolved inequality for 75 years. So what else can we do? Better to just give them good education, facilities, and let them compete. This mission fails at the we and them. On the contrary, among those watching Homebound, you would see empathy with the struggles of three very young and poor rural Indians with education, smarts, and aspiration. There is audience acknowledgement of how the system was always loaded to fail them. So, what do we do now? For perspective, these three young people in the movie represent more than 1/3 of India's population, about 15% Muslims and more than 18% Dalits. Education, reservations, and government jobs are meant to bring equality and dignity. That we are a long way from that is evident in the shoe thrown at the Chief Justice, and sadder still, the suicide of Haryana Additional Director General of Police, ADGP Y. Puran Kumar. By the way, his wife and 2001 batchmate Amneet P. Kumar is also Dalit. She's in the IAS. She's the one who filed the FIR blaming the state DGP and a district SP for her husband's victimization. Here we stand then. If a Chief Justice of India, an IPS, a senior IPS, and an equally senior IAS officer cannot get dignity and equality, it shows our systemic injustices and prejudices are too deep and visceral to be fixed after 75 years of reservation. We must persist, therefore, not roll back. That the three young friends in Homebound, Chandan Kumar, Valmiki caste, Mohammad Shoaib Ali, and Sudha Bharti, also Dalit, played by Vishal Jetwa, Ishan Khattar, and Janvi Kapoor, respectively, are competing to be recruited as mere police constables brings back a conversation with Babu Jagjeevan Ram. He was always called Babuji. Babu Jagjeevan Ram in 1985. I was reporting for India Today then in the first upper or general caste protests against the Mandal Commission report, which had then become a talking point. The fact is that Babu Jagjeevan Ram at this point was out of power and had a lot of time. That is what I keep saying about politicians. They have a lot of time for you when they are out of power, and they really appreciate it if you reach out to them when they are not in power. And then they open up a great deal to you, even if you happen to be a young journalist. They were meeting for the first time. This was 1985, 40 years ago. Jagjeevan Ram, as I told you, was now out of power, had time. For me, very patiently, he made the best case ever for reservations. He talked of an old friend, a scheduled caste, nobody used the term Dalit yet, shoe entrepreneur in Agra. With big exports, lavish house, and important car, in his exact words, बहुत बड़ी विदेशी motor है उनके पास में, an imported car and millions of rupees. 40 years ago, it was a lot of money. Yet, he was pleading with Babuji to get his son recruited as an assistant sub-inspector, ASI in Uttar Pradesh Police. You've got all this wealth, Jagjeevan Ram said. I told him, you've got all this wealth. Why would you want your son to become just an ASI? He said, Jagjeevan Ram's friend said, however rich we may be, a Brahmin will never treat me or my son with respect. But if he's an ASI, all his juniors, including Brahmins, will salute him. That's how reservations bring equality and power, Babuji said. The picture is a bit more complex in the film Homebound, as Chandan insists on competing in the general category. If he discloses his caste, Valmiki, he says, even in the police, they would condemn him to sweeping duties at the police station. Sudha ultimately wants to graduate and compete in UPSC, and Shoaib is so street smart, he outsells his tie-clad managers while being just a peon in a white goods company. The big boss spoke to him in amazement and used the popular corporate description, Bechu, tum to bechu ho. In our lives, I have seen salespeople saying, ye to bilkul selu hai. Somebody who's brilliant at selling anything to anybody. He, Muhammad Shoaib Ali, played by Ishan Khaddar, is on his way to becoming a tie-clad salesman himself until he's humiliated at the drunken party at the boss's house to watch a big cricket match. Even as he's celebrating, Shoaib is celebrating, he's asked derisively how he must be heartbroken as India just beat Pakistan. He walks out. Both Dalits and Muslims are being crushed by burdens of their ancestral past in India in contrary ways. Exactly contrary ways, absolutely contrary ways. The Dalits, because of injustices over generations for which oppressor castes must make amends. And not all of them are happy to do so. And the Muslims, and not all of them are happy to do so. There is a pushback from those who think that reserved categories are taking too many of the scarce jobs despite having quote-unquote low merit. And the Muslims, because they somehow must similarly account for the excesses and subjugation of the Hindu majority by their Mughal / Afghan / Turk / Arab ancestors, and of course for Jinnah for breaking up the country. These are the two arms of the pincer that bring a commonality between the fates of Chandan, Shoaib and Sudha and 1/3 of India. In fairness, the Modi government's vast array of welfare, direct benefit transfer schemes do not discriminate against anybody over identity. Everybody gets the same benefits. The most important competitive exams, especially the UPSC, are fair, and a significant number of Muslims qualify, as this story by Nutan Sharma tells us. Please see the story. There is a screenshot. I will also share a link with you with the description. For the Muslims already out of top political, constitutional or bureaucratic positions, wider challenges also arise outside the government. There is social exclusion, difficulty in getting jobs. Shoaib in the movie is asked repeatedly for police checks and also parents' Aadhaar cards. There is also difficulty in renting homes. Further, there is a systematic assault on businesses generally linked to Muslims. Meat trade and restaurants serving meat with multiple and arbitrary meat bans during festival weeks, even fortnights in some cases, leather and animal hide business, butchery. You would have noticed the large presence of young Muslims carrying out app-based deliveries, Zomato, Swiggy, etc., driving Uber, or coming in through apps, delivering repairs and maintenance. That's because it's so much tougher for them to find other jobs. On social media, there is already alarmist clamor about this, as if it's a threat to your families. Then it gets woven into insinuations of love jihad and conversions, even heinous crime. The good fact is, as the RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat said in his exhaustive talk at Bigyan Bhavan last month, India's Muslims are reversing some negative stereotypes. How many babies they produce being one. Bhagwat said the birth rates among Hindus declined first, and now the Muslims are getting there. They are also catching up with lowering birth rates. India's Muslims have also embraced modern education, as sadly the Muslims haven't in Afghanistan, a state of their own, and which sadly the Muslims haven't done in Pakistan, a state they own, a state of their own, and which they owe to Sir Syed Ahmad and Allama Iqbal, both proponents of modern education, English medium education for Muslims. In India, having embraced modern education, if educated, aspirational, job-capable young Muslims are also forced to ghettoize, it's unfortunate. It won't help the cause of Viksit Bharat. This column isn't a film review, except to say that India has chosen its entry for the Oscars very wisely this year. It's just the fact that the film struck a chord with a demographic we might usually see as insensitive and arrogant, and the film has coincided fortuitously with two real-life stories where the victims, and I use that word even if it weighs heavy on my heart, are in the most privileged positions India can offer a citizen, a Chief Justice of India, an IPS officer and an IAS officer. I would take you back also to the calumny India's first and only other Dalit Chief Justice of India, K.G. Balakrishnan, faced from the day he was appointed. That makes for a pattern we cannot let go unnoticed, particularly as it involves 1 in 3 Indians.